Hello my friends, families and colleagues. Well, today let's talk a little bit about this big taboo called tumor or cancer. Today there is a bigger confusion about it than there was when I was studying medicine, which was some like 40 some years ago, close to 50. Okay, so how come? Well, because we are being played. You know, everybody knows by now. I mean, we are in this great awakening. If you did not realize that everything we have been told was a version of a truth, which means basically a lie, then you are still sleeping. So what is this problem with the cancer? Now, new theories are coming out. Okay, the cancer is being fueled by two fuels, and this is why it is quite difficult to deal with it, because you know it uses basically sugar. It cannot use fat, because to use fat it needs oxygen, because fat is pure carbon and hydrogen. So to eliminate the carbon, it needs to fuse it to oxygen. And since oxygen is not coming in, there is not enough oxygen, it cannot do this reaction. So it is left to deal with sugar, because sugar has in its structure, it has a carbon, hydrogen and oxygen. But then, now we are being told, okay, but there is another thing. We can use certain amino acid, glutamine, and now we have to weed out glutamine, protect glutamine. Let's make a glutamine destroyer, something that inhibits glutamine production. Because basically everything that is in our body is created by our body. Sometimes we do receive components. So when you eat protein, when digestion breaks it into amino acids, and then when we absorb these amino acids, then already within intestines, amino acids are being broken down and used for particular purposes. One of them is to produce cholesterol. It's being produced in our intestines when nutrients come through food. Now, the amino acids can also be used to, if there is no need to make cholesterol, because cholesterol is basically protein bound to fat. So the protein part, well, we can use the amino acid, but not in its original form. It is going to be shifted. It is going to be made into our amino acid. Everything decomposes down and then rebuilds itself, because every tissue is a reactor, has two sides to it. You can call it positive, negative sides. You have minerals, you have plasma in between, and then through actions of radio electromagnetic energy, there is a creation of what we then visualize as whatever it is: protein, fats, cholesterol, amino acids. So the amino acids which have entered the intestinal wall, the reactor, then they are broken down. And if there is no use for anything else, then eventually they are converted into fat. How is that possible? Because chemically, if we look through biochemistry, every amino acid has a carboxylic group. Now, what is this carboxylic group? Well, it is basically carbon, oxygen, hydrogen. So when you have this combination coming into mitochondria in its Krebs cycle or citric acid cycle, whatever we call it, the wheel can now shuffle. All of this can produce ketone. Okay? So it's not only that fat produces ketone. It can be done with the sugar. It can be done with protein. But basically protein, because it has carboxylic group, it has the COH, carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. These are the components necessary to create either one of those. You can create ketone, you can create fatty acid, and you can create glucose, sugar acid. Okay? So the manipulation can go anyway, and this is fraudster's dream, wet dream, because they can actually show you on molecular which process can be made, but they will pinpoint on the one that serves their agenda. And now we are zeroing on glutamine. Okay, let's break glutamine. Well, glutamine is very important in synthesis of proteins. So you attack it, you are attacking your body, not cancer. Again, nobody is thinking. Because every amino acid can fuel anything, but the problem is that these amino acids are not going to be just freely floating in the blood, because they are not going to be pushed in the blood. Whatever we eat is being processed in the reactor of our intestine, and the necessity of the body is going to be met. And feeding cancer is not necessity. So basically, cancer is going to be fed whatever is there in the blood that it can use, and if we are glucoholics and we eat carbohydrates, we absorb glucose, and this is going to become predominant food for the cancer cell. And now, because when you convert now glucose into energy, you are producing carbon dioxide without necessity of gaining oxygen, because in the sugar molecule you have this carboxylic group. You have carbon, oxygen, and hydrogen. So oxygen and carbon and hydrogen are ready. So by itself you make carbon, the mitochondria makes carbon dioxide and leaves the hydrogen as energy. So the cell that is predominantly running now on glucose, which every tumor cells is, not only cancer, tumor, they are basically one and the same. Only tumor, we say, it is basically isolated and grows, doesn't spread through the body, and cancer spreads through the body. So, obviously, the fuel is not the trigger for the cancer. It will feed it, and the highly predominant fuel is really the glucose, because there is plenty of it. When you are glucoholic, you are loaded with sugar, always above the normal, above the radar. And body has to deal with it, so tumor cells are going to absorb it and produce huge amount of carbon dioxide, which then exceeds the relative pressure of the oxygen that comes with oxygenated blood, and the oxygen has no power to displace the carbon dioxide. This is why tumor cells become anaerobic. They just survive without the necessity of getting oxygen, because they get it through the food. And the blood does not have this huge stream of glutamine that would feed it. And why glutamine? Again, we are picking one amino acid. Every amino acid has a carboxylic group. But science, again, we are following the stupid science. It picks one and tells us, no, look here, look, this is, this. Same what they do with the fructose. They pick fructose. No, you see fructose because fructose cannot be used by cells. Cells don't want it. Doesn't increase insulin, but when you absorb the fructose, now the liver has to break it and produces huge amounts of uric acid. Well, the same thing in liver happens when glucose is being muted into fat. You produce huge amount of uric acid. And the problem is then not as we are being told, fructose, because fructose doesn't increase absorption. So you will never have this amount of fructose coming in. So it's not problem of the single unit, it's a problem of the process. Fructose and glucose produce uric acid when they are transformed into fat. But somehow we are being told that glucose is the good carbohydrate. Fructose is the bad boy, which actually is the contrary. Again, we are listening to stupid science and brainwashed so-called scientists who swallow this bait. This is all manipulated science, which is then promoted by so-called big names like Fauci and garbage, who are idiots being used against their own people. Okay? So what is cancer? I have explained. Cancer is nothing more than uncontrolled proliferation of the cell. And cells proliferate when they are very toxic. Why do they proliferate? Because their voltage drops down. So anything that is going to interfere with energy source other than food, but interfere with energy source. So what is this? What can interfere with the energy source? High acidity of the cell. High acidity of the cell does not allow it to maintain the charge. So even if it produces charge using a sugar, it immediately loses it. Produces and loses, produces, only the production keeps it going, but it never reaches the full point because it keeps losing the energy, discharging, because of high acidity. This is why the cell, since it cannot hold the energy, then it divides itself in half, tries to fill the half of it with garbage, and creates like a huge microsome, mesosome, whatever they call it, what they now show as a virus, to be destroyed, and the little thing that is remaining, the half that is remaining, is less polluted. So has more chance of now gaining, holding electric current, so raising the voltage. But if it's still overly polluted and it cannot do it, then it continues proliferating and just breaks again and does not have even time to discard this one. They just keep proliferating in hope that one of them will be clean enough to hold the charge, which doesn't happen in toxic body. But how come that some people have this cancer or tumors and some people don't, and they may have even worse acidity in the cells? Because again, I explained that heart produces the energy, electricity, shoots it to brain, and brain fractures it like a prism in different frequencies, and then supplies tissues in the body with this energy. Every tissue has different frequency. So a piece of brain that has fractured it in this prism of energy shoots in this particular organ. And because every thought has a particular frequency, if the frequencies matches the frequency of organ, now the brain is going to be transmitting and not rerouting to the organ. Every time it transmits, it uses all the energy for transmission. So what causes actually cancer? It is not the toxicity. This is why we have a huge amount of so-called carcinogens in our life. They are putting carcinogens everywhere. Into fabric softeners, into detergents, into plastics, into food, everywhere, into air, everywhere. We are loaded in an environment of carcinogens, what we call. What are those? Those are all the toxins that will stop cellular hydration. So sometimes cancer occurs, sometimes it doesn't. And you're exposed to the same carcinogen. Why not? Because if your mind is not wasting energy, then whatever heart produces, it can continuously supply your tissues and your cells with energy of that frequency and maintain the frequency in a healthy state of the cell. But as soon as the brain starts getting occupied with one particular thought, why one particular? Because now one frequency is being affected constantly. And we know with women, if problem is a child, now it doesn't matter if problem is bad or good problem. I mean, problem is always bad. But if child has been hurt, or if child is doing something wrong, or if child is fighting with the person emotionally, in many different ways, woman, men also, but now woman can be affected by constantly thinking about this child. And the frequency of child is closely related to frequency of left breast. And this is why constant preoccupation with this one child is going to trigger a tumor, not necessarily cancer, tumor in the breast. And then we make biopsy, and we even more deplete energy, because every time you break something, you are cutting energy meridians. And now you create bigger mess. Even cyst can turn into cancer very quickly, and then tumor can continue proliferating, and then fear can now switch to different thoughts and trigger deprivation, energetic deprivation in different organs. And this is how cancer spreads. Cancer doesn't spread because this one cell got disengaged and went in different part of body and settled down. It's different vibration, it cannot settle down. Again, we have to think quantum. Now, this is why the worst thing the doctor can do, if it wants to heal someone, when it is diagnosed with tumor or cancer, the worst thing absolutely we can do is tell that person that they have cancer. Why? Because it creates panic, creates fear, and actually causes cancer in other parts of the body, because now fear becomes on many sides. Fear for your own life, fear about somebody else who depends on you, fear about not being able to accomplish certain things that you wanted to accomplish. So many different fears can now be triggered in the brain that you load your thoughts with, and you are transmitting, and nothing is going into these organs. And toxic organ, dehydrated, very acidic, turns into cancer, because basically it is now completely deprived with energy. This is why now when we understand this, and Dr. Hammer, he showed, I don't know, 40,000 cases of cancers being triggered and being healed by changing frame of thinking. And the easiest way to heal any cancer is to forget about it. But then also, we know that there is one thought that created it. So we have to get rid of that thought. And this is how you heal cancer. You can remain with this toxic body and eat garbage and still get rid of cancer, which happen to many people. There are instances that someone with a stage 4 cancer was sent home to die. And instead of crying about it or staying in a stupid hospital, they sold everything they had, bought passage on a cruiser, because always in life the biggest dream they had was to cruise on a cruiser around the world. And every day they enjoy the food, they have fun, they meet new people, every day in other port, see other things, getting lost now in this visual reality that they enjoy very much, and they completely forget about any problem they had before and cancer. They ignore everything. They are just immersed in joy. And what happens? Cruise is done, and so is their cancer. No more cancer. And they are more polluted than ever. Instead of doing the right thing, what are we told to do? Put more toxins in the body. Chemotherapy. So toxic that you immediately lose all the hair on the body. So toxic. And you put this toxic stuff to heal toxic organ. Makes any sense? Only to brainwash doctors. And people who believe that doctors know what he's doing. 90% doctors have absolutely no clue about anything. And even those who have little clue still don't know. Because nobody actually observes and thinks. And when we hear, I didn't discover this. This is old knowledge. Even Dr. Hammer didn't discover this. This is old knowledge. But it's constantly being suppressed and suppressed and suppressed, and people who tell the truth prosecuted and killed or paid to shut up. I was offered money. If we always shut up, if we always accept the money, point comes, and point is now that the money is not going to help you. Those who collaborate are the first one to be get rid of. And you will see the politicians, they will sacrifice each other. They will start pushing each other under the bus. Because there is no loyalty, there is fear. Fear, huge amount of fear. Again, toxin that deprives you of energy, fear. Cancer is nothing to be feared. And we are always enabling it by putting fear into people. Before, when I was studying, the thing was, okay, don't tell them that they have cancer. Let's try to heal them, help them. Today, no, no, no. Even if it's not cancer, you have a cyst, you have something, could be cancer. Immediately cancer, fear, 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 fear. Of course, you will have a cancer. My father has 3 dark spots on lungs from smoking. It was discovered when he was 28 years old, and he started coughing, and he was a heavy smoker. And then he dropped cigarettes in one shot and never smoked again. When he was 80, 1 year after his wife, my mother, died from cancer of liver, pancreas actually. I did not have this knowledge then, so I'm sorry for that to happen, but now at least I can help others. My father started coughing, and my brother, urologist, took him for chest x-ray. They found those 3 spots, and doctor immediately, could be cancer, so let's see. And my father, memory, his wife just died from cancer. Cancer kills. I have a cancer. 1 year later, he was dead. And then going through things, old stuff, we found the x-rays of when he was young, same 3 dark spots. He had them whole life, not causing cancer. Yes, damaged tissue, acidic, very bad. He never cleansed it. He stopped smoking, but this doesn't trigger healing. You have to detox on cellular level, which almost nobody knows how to do correctly. So, what happened? What killed him? His mind, his fear, deprivation of tissues of energy that they needed, because themselves the tissue could not help because it was acidic, it was poisoned. So cancer and tumor is not related to carcinogens, it is related to our mind. Deprivation of energy. This deprivation of energy can be very strong through certain mineralization. Asbestos, saturation with asbestos breaks the energy pathway, so now you cannot even with the brain supply energy. Very often it happens on skin cancers. Okay, so this occurs, but it's always deprivation of energy. You just cut the energy. If you restore the energy flow, cancer disappear, tumor disappear. It's all about energy flow. So, if you know anyone that has problem with tumors, cancer, tell them the truth. They have to forget about what is eating them from inside, the thought. Whatever the thought it is. And every thought, since it has relation, if it has relation to any organ, you think about the drowning, lack of oxygenation of your lungs, well, you may have developed a cancer of lungs. You have anger in you, and you do not want to tell someone what bothers you, and you hold it, and you want to say, and you hold it, and you have a cancer of throat, because talking is connected with the throat. Child with the breast, breastfeeding. Husband with the right breast. I guess we like them too. Digestive cancers. You are not digesting some energy. Emotional. All emotion goes in the gut. You always feel, not with the heart, but with the gut, I feel something is right or something is bad. You get this cringe. So, and all this, relations, cancer, and thoughts, Dr. Hammond had it all classified. Skin integrity. So time to learn the truth and time to act on the truth. You have a cancer, you want to get rid of cancer, find the biggest excitement, something that you really love to do, and forget about everything else and focus on this thing. If it is climbing Mount Everest, go there. If it is sleeping on a beach under palm tree, do it. But something that really occupies you, that immerses you in this thing that you really love. And I promise cancer will be gone. You can even eat garbage. But better yet, why not to act in any possible positive way and starve the cancer as well. But then again, cancer has to be destroyed. Starving it will not destroy it. What will destroy it? Macrophage. Because it has low energy, so macrophage can approach it. But why the macrophage doesn't destroy it? Because it's not marked with marking destruction protein, GCMF. Why not? Because body cells that are glucoholic, that are converted to run on glucose, have to produce nagalase, and since naga gene is the gene in proper vibration is responsible of giving information to the cell to produce GCMF, it ain't happening. So you are not producing GCMF because you are producing nagalase. And you are producing nagalase because you have glucose saturated environment. So you need this enzyme. So it is important to go into ketogenic diet, the true ketogenic diet, which I even don't like to call ketogenic because so much garbage about ketogenic diet from so-called experts that absolutely makes no sense. So I call it the correct diet, which is based on animal proteins and fats. And this way, body will not need to produce any more nagalase. It is going to shift because the environment is shifting, genetic expression shifts, cells start to produce GCMF, and now GCMF will mark bacteria, fungus, and tissues of low energy that should be destroyed, including cancer. And all of a sudden, you feel stabbing pains where cancer is, and goes, and goes. Why? Because now your macrophage is chewing on it. And then it disappears. Think about it. Thank you for listening. Till next time. Bye.